Great to see you all here. So, just a minute before we start this webinar, and I can see lots of people joining. So, I would request everyone to please, if you can write your company's name and from the region from where you are, so that we can also know from which part of the country we have people coming from. Great. Okay, great. So we have lots of people who have joined already. So let's get started. So good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to today's webinar on overcoming test environment challenge with smart testing strategies. I'm Amit, your host for this session, and on behalf of the entire Meteonic Innovation team, I would like to thank you for taking the time to join us today. Before we dive into the session, let me give you a brief introduction to Meteonic Innovation, the proud organization and technical enabler of today's event. Meteonic has been a trusted name in the software ecosystem for around two decades now. We specialize in end-to-end tool consultancy, integration, and enablement, helping organizations across industries adopt the right tools and methodologies to accelerate their DevOps, QA, security, and compliance journeys. One of our key collaborations is with Blazemeter. Today, we are very thankful to them, and they are a leading continuous testing platform. Through our partnership with Blazemeter, we are helping numerous QA and DevOps team overcome test environment constraints, simplify test data handling, and implement scalable AI-powered test strategies. Blazemeter offers a unified solution for performance, functional, and API testing with powerful integration, distributed executions, and intelligent analytics that align perfectly with modern CI/CD pipelines. So, if your team is struggling with test instabilities, infrastructure bottlenecks, or flaky scripts, you are in the right place today. Before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping rules. Use the question and answer or chat box to drop in any questions. We will address them during the Q&A session at the end. The session is being recorded and will be sharing the recording and resources with all participants after the event. So let's kick things off with a quick poll to get to know you better and understand your biggest testing points. So we have already shared the link in the chat box. So please click on the link and join the Q&A session. So this is a very quick poll, so please join for this poll. Uh, so I'm sharing my screen so that you can also see the questions on the screen. Great. So I believe you can see the screen and we have 15-20 seconds allotted for each and every questions. So this is the first question. What's your primary testing focus? Functional testing, performance testing, mobile testing, API testing, or all of the above? You can share your answers. Okay. So I hope everyone has answered. So moving on to the next question. What's your biggest test environment challenge? Unstable test environments, scripting, test script maintenance, root cause analysis, resource availability, or all of the above. So you can give your answer. Great. So we can move to the next question now. And it's would AI-based test optimization interest your team? Yes, we are already exploring it. Yes, but we are just starting, unsure or not currently a priority. I can see lots of people still have not started giving answers. Okay, great. So we have the answers now with us. So let us see how many people have given what answers. Okay, yeah. So as we can see, for first question, what's your primary testing focus? 54.5% have written all of the above. That means functional testing, performance testing, API testing, and mobile testing. All of them are their testing focus. 31.8% on the functional testing part and 13.6% on the performance testing part. Okay. Next, what's your biggest test environment challenge? Again, all of the above, 41.2%, but good number to the unstable test environments also, 23.5%. Test script maintenance, 17.6%. Scripting, 11.8%, and resource availability, 5.9%. Great. Next, would AI-based test optimization interest your team? Yes, we are already exploring it. Okay, lots of people are already exploring it. That's good to know. And but yes, we are just starting, 29.4%, unsure 17.6%, and not currently a priority, 11.8%. Great. So we have a good intel knowing the people who are in the journey with us. Great. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our expert speaker for today. I won't waste much of the time. So our speaker, Mr. Sesha. Sesha brings deep hands-on experience in all aspects of software development lifecycle with a core focus on identity and access management. He's developed custom identity federation solutions using industry standard protocols such as SAML 2.0, OAuth 2.0, WS Federation, and WS Trust, and has worked with leading solutions like ADFS 2.0, Novel Access Manager, and Ping Identity. Great. Today, he'll walk us through smart, scalable strategies to overcome the hidden and not so hidden testing environment challenges that modern QA and DevOps team face. Sesha, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Amit. Hope you all can hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
All right, let's get started. Thank you for running the poll, Amit. I think that kind of sets the stage for today's topic. So, just before we jump into the topic, I'd like to do a quick introduction about myself. I am Sesha, and I have been with Perforce for more than 2 years now, but I've been in the IT space for close to 2 decades. I have I've started off as a .NET developer, built some products, did some IT consulting in identity and access management space, implementing CA technologies products, globally. Uh, but I landed in the testing field maybe about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, where I got introduced to Blazemeter and Perfecto when they were not a part of Perforce. Um, but since then, I think the evolution of these products is actually phenomenal. And today I want to discuss a few things that most of the performance engineers or QA folks see, or the testing groups within large enterprises see, and how we can overcome those. Um, Primarily, I am responsible for the post-sale motion. I run the customer success team for Blaze and Perfecto brands at Perforce. So, before we dig deep into the actual topic of the day, I want to take a step back and maybe talk a little bit about who Perforce is and like how did we all really arrive here. You must have heard of Perforce in the past, but if I have to give you, I don't know, a 5 minute overview of who we are, Perforce has been in IT for over 25 years now. We have acquired several brands over the past 2, 3 decades. In fact, we started off with Helix Core, which is our version control software used by Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. But then, as we got into this game, I think we have acquired several brands. So today we are a culmination of about, I would say, 14, 15 brands that we have acquired. Like Clockwork, QAC, there are static analysis tools. ALM is for digital creation and planning. On the right-hand side, platform automation like Puppet is our software configuration management tool. Uh, and then the group that I belong to is at the bottom of the screen, where I'm responsible for Blazemeter and Perfecto. Delphix also kind of falls into the same realm um, because they do some test data management stuff like test data anonymization, masking, and all. In fact, there's going to be a Delphix focused webinar in a week from now, which you can join. Uh, but in a nutshell, Perforce has a good collection of products, enterprise products, which they've acquired over the period of years. What we're trying to do now is we're trying to set up meaningful integration between these products to solve some of the most complex use cases, right? And my goal is to discuss some of those challenges that we see in the testing and quality space and how the integration between Blaze and Perfecto will solve it, and also how can they solve it independently. That's what I would really focus on for the day. So now going into the topic of the day, right? Testing, challenges, continuous testing. We have heard all of these terms, but what is continuous testing? I mean, traditionally, software development, if you look at different stages of SDLC, a developer would write the code. Yes, we had unit tests or integration tests, and then you hand it off to a QA environment where someone would do some testing, and then they do the deployment into production, and the app is live. You're monitoring it. This always was, the style of testing. It started off manually, and then we built automation in place, and regression suites came in. Um, this is all good, but when Blazemeter kind of was founded about 10 years ago, we created something called as Taurus, which is a developer friendly framework to have developers write their own tests so that you can test early on in the development cycle. Meaning, instead of testing far right in the SDLC cycle, you're testing left. And we call that a shift left testing, really. And why is it important to do testing? So Bank of America conducted a study a few years ago, and they tried to come up with, okay, what is really the impact of not doing testing, or what is the impact of doing testing pretty late in the cycle. So let's assume again, they did this study by talking to like the top retailers in the US, like Best Buy, American Eagle, and all. And what they have identified is, okay, if say I'm releasing something today into a piece of code, I identify a defect after it goes into production. So the cost of fixing a defect is much more when compared to cost of fixing a defect if you detect it early on. What they really mean by this is, let's say an untested piece of code goes all the way into your build, goes through QA, and you don't have a proper regression suite, cannot test it, it goes all the way to production. That's when some end customer identifies it. You have one, reputation damage. Two, there's loss of revenue because they're not able to add something to the shopping cart and checkout. So there's loss of business. And then three, you have to take your system either down or release something as a hot fix. You need to have all the developers and all come back and do work at odd times of the day and fix it. So the cost is exponentially high when compared to fixing the same defect, maybe if it was detected like a stage earlier, right? So if you shift one.
Sorry for the inconvenience. So we have some network failures. Just give us a moment. So till that time, if you have any questions regarding any of the features or anything regarding the testing part, please let us know. Please write your questions in the comment in the chat section so that we will address them as soon as possible, most probably by the end of the session. But if time permits, we can do it in the middle also. So please continue to write your questions so that we can answer them in the meanwhile.
All right. Um, Sorry about that. I think there was a Zoom decided to crash on me. See, looks like someone did not test properly. All right. I am back. Let's continue where we left off. Amit, hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry about that. So I think I was talking about why we have to test early on, and what is the impact of not doing testing early on in the development cycle, and what kind of revenue impact it can have, what kind of other business reputation impact it can have, right? Now, this is all good. Now, how do we really do this whole continuous testing? Okay, we understand the impact, but what is it that enterprises need to do to be able to do this type of testing, and what roadblocks or challenges we have today. So let's start with like a typical application environment. Okay. So typically you have, say, an application environment, you have a front end, you have a back end. Now the front end could be either a web app or a mobile app, and you have a back end to it, maybe a REST interface. And then you have your databases, production database, non-production database, whatever it is. And then you are probably depending on some in-house applications. Say, I don't know, you have single sign-on, or you have an authentication service within the enterprise that is common for all applications, or you have a payment gateway that you need to talk to, or there could be some other service that you are relying on to pull the information and display inside your app, right? Now, these are all in-house dependencies. And then there can also be external dependencies, like a complete third-party thing. Say you use a Google Map API, or you have a location API where you are passing coordinates, trying to get the zip code back, whatever it can be. So those are all external dependencies. So you have your own application, which you as developers are building, and then you have a database managed by, say, a database administrator, and you have in-house dependencies where services are written by other development teams, and then you have external dependencies that are totally out of your control, right? Um, so what challenges you can really see when you have an environment like this? So the very first thing is, you can say you may have a performance issue either in the front end app or in the application backend, or maybe an authentication service, or totally a third party service, right? You may have these issues. Two, you may have lack of test data, really. I mean, let's say you're testing, and it is important to use the right data, right? Um, and you can't really use production data for whatever reason. So maybe there is wrong data in some QA environment because of which you're unable to test, or maybe your database is down, or it is not refreshed with production, because we always talk about doing a nightly refresh of production data into QA. Oh, maybe the QA is not refreshed with production data yet, so you can't really do testing. How do you manage all of this, right? And then there can be situations where a specific component is totally unavailable for you. You may have you are probably relying on a dependency, say an authentication service or a payment gateway service or a Google API endpoint. You cannot really hit that application for testing. If it is an internal service, maybe the other app team is still working on it. They're making changes to the code. You don't have it available for testing. Or you start testing. A lot of times we get these tickets saying, hey, we started testing, but the development team said they need the environment back because they need to make changes. We don't have the environment available to test, right? Now, that is in-house. Those developers are still talking to you. There can be cases where there's an external dependency where you can't really run a performance test against it, because say it is, say, a Google Map API endpoint. If you're trying to generate 1,000 user load or a 5,000 user load against a Google endpoint, they'll probably call it a denial of service attack. They will not even allow you to hit it. So, because one, for security reasons, two, there is bandwidth issues, three is, for cost, right? If you're generating a lot of load to a service which is behind AWS, AWS will come up with a huge bill for us. So we need to make sure we are considering all these constraints, and how can we really tackle these when it comes to testing and still make the test look more realistic, right? So if we really have to group all these issues or pain points, I would group it into like 6 different categories, right? Number one, environment challenges. So having a proper, stable, scalable, and a production-like environment is expensive these days, and it is also difficult. It is a very complex situation. Two, test data, having the right data available. So you need to make sure, say I'm running a test. I don't want to log in as Sesha, all the time. If I'm running 1,000 virtual user test performance wise, and I don't want to log in as the same user every single time because that's not a realistic test. You log in as different users, you uncover issues because you put in, a username and a password, or you put in extra characters when filling out a form. The data has to be different, reasonable, and make it more realistic, like real end users. Only then, we can identify or we can uncover issues within the app. Three is the whole process of scripting and maintenance itself. Right? I saw the poll earlier, and looks like scripting maintenance is an issue. And we understand that. Like, we spend a lot of time trying to write a script, trying to maintain it every single time there's a change in the application. And then three, not just that, uh, just let's imagine, you're trying to do a functional test. It has to be a Selenium script. You're trying to do a performance test. It has to be either a JMeter script or a Gatling script or a Locus script, right? So we understand there is stuff to be done there, and we are trying to ease things in that space. And then user experience testing. Now there's front end, there is back end. How do you know the actual experience the end user is seeing when your system is under load? Like, how many tools out there can do it? And how do you automate all of this through your pipelines without you having to log in anywhere? Just click of a button, everything goes through your pipeline, things get deployed, and you get to know the results, put approval workflows in place. There are gaps. And last but not the least, if you look at it from the lens of an enterprise, like, yes, as a performance engineer, maybe the other issues are more relevant to you. But if you look at it from the lens of the actual, you know, head of testing center of excellence, having to deal with multiple products from different vendors is often, a struggle. And because, one, there is no integration between the products, and two, it's actually not giving a seamless experience for them in terms of not just usability of the tool but also working with people, right? So we have heard all this, and what we believe in is, Perforce as a company has the right set of tools to solve these challenges, and I want to talk about that, especially on the multiple vendor part, right? Typically, if you go to an enterprise, you have to do all these things. Like, you have to do security testing, you have to do performance testing, test data, mobile testing, API, CI/CD integration, accessibility, and all. With Perforce, I think we have the ability to do most of it. We're not saying we can do all of it, but we can do most of it. And this significantly reduces the time it takes for, in terms of paperwork. Just as a company, you're dealing with one vendor who can do a bunch of things, and who can help you solve a problem as opposed to selling a product. So, um, our solutions, again, I keep saying solution, and we're a continuous testing solution because we're not trying to sell a product. We solve problems by selling whatever is right and needed for you, right? Our set of tools can do a lot of things. In fact, the only thing we don't do today is security testing. We do a little bit of accessibility testing in one of our products. We have CI/CD integration. Let's see what all we can do. Okay. And how we can do is where I want to get to, and maybe show you a little bit of how things, or how and what things it is going to solve. So, Perforce, within our Blaze and Perfecto brands, we can do performance testing. You might have heard either me talking about it or others on my team talking about it. You probably know this already. Blazemeter has been an industry leader in performance testing for over a decade. And then, mobile app testing. We have the ability to spin up real devices, virtual devices in the cloud, We can do geolocation injection, fingerprint login. We can test all those. We can also do SIM card based testing. So if you really want to test your front end, when your backend is under load, you can utilize Blaze to run that performance test and use Perfecto to see the user experience on a mobile device as the test is happening, right? And then we can do packaged application testing like Oracle, Siebel, um, SAP GUI, any large thick client apps, we are able to test it. Test data management, we have got our own ability to generate synthetic test data. We have standard seed lists available for generating first names, last names, emails, phone numbers, everything. When combined with other feature areas within the product, that is where it becomes more powerful. I will show you an example shortly. And then we can do functional testing. As you know, you can either bring in your own Selenium scripts or you can do it in a scriptless mode. End user experience testing is what I was talking about, which other vendors are not able to do, and we can do that where we can do test the experience of the end user on a mobile device or on web and show how the application looked when the backend is under load, right? And then just API testing monitoring. Uh, let's say you all must have used tools like Postman. So we can completely replace tools like Postman and do that API testing and schedule them and put a monitor on it and say, hey, keep hitting my APIs every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And we can monitor them from 16 different locations across the globe, right? And when they go down, you can get alerted. We have integrations available with all CI/CD tools for these features. API, specifically API monitoring. We have integrations with Splunk, PagerDuty, Teams, Slack. You can get alerted as and when things go wrong, so that you're on top of things. Service virtualization is something I will probably show you today. This is probably the most underrated feature on our side. And this is what actually helps you eliminate any of your challenges that you see in your environment, right? Your environment unavailability can be replaced with our service virtualization feature. Let's put a pin on that. We'll talk shortly how it is done. So now, really, as I said, with a collection of our products, Blazemeter and Perfecto together, we're able to use virtual services and we can completely eliminate the need for those backend services. Okay. Meaning, let's say it could be either be a mobile app or a web app that is talking to a backend API, but that API is an external dependency. For whatever reason, it is not available and you want to use that. We can spin up a virtual service, use that within the app, and continue to test, right? Two, performance testing, right? How do you really load test your mobile app or mobile gateway? So when someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to do performance testing, but mobile app, how do we do that? I mean, we don't really literally performance test a mobile device, but the mobile device, say you are opening up Swiggy or Book My Show, you're indeed accessing a backend. So how do you test the backend? Yes, we have ways to do that, right? So this is a complex use case which we can solve where you have a need. We can capture the traffic going from your mobile device to the backend APIs, create a har file, use that, convert it into a place meter test, run it at scale, test the performance. And while that is happening, we can monitor what is happening on the mobile device because our Perfecto tool can tell you whether the CPU memory consumption of this Android device is okay when we are generating the load on the back end. and give you that user experience also, right? And you can mix text test data as a part of this. So I believe both the products together will make a powerful combination, and they can solve some of these complex use cases that most of the times are either untouched or that are probably tested but not to the fullest potential, right? So let's now dig deeper into the virtual services part that I talked about. So Blazemeter, and as I said, Blazemeter does, I mean, people probably know this mostly as a performance testing tool, but it can do functional testing also. It can do that API monitoring I mentioned, but it can do this whole virtual service creation, so service virtualization concept, right? And this is a very critical piece to that can help you overcome this challenge of eliminating your environment delays. So what it can really do is we give you the ability to either upload a Swagger file or a HAR file, or you can manually create a virtual service and define the transactions inside it. Let's say you have an endpoint. Like I mentioned, I gave you the example of location, coordinates, getting zip code back. You can say whether it has to be a get call or a post call, what should the body of the message be, and what is the expected response. So every time, so we'll create the dummy service for you, and you can attach the dummy service to your test and run it. And I'll show you an example shortly. Or you can use our built-in recorder to record the flow and then let the recording create the virtual service for you. Because say there can be cases where you have a virtual service with maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 transactions. You don't want to spend time manually creating them. We can give you the ability to use our recording. So as I said, you can create it either from the API specifications or just record, right? So, and this is how we think we can eliminate the test environment challenges, which is our pain point one. Now, pain point two is test data. Blaze has this built-in concept of synthetic test data generation, and it is AI powered, right? So just like how you go on Copilot or Chat GPT, you can actually either use our built-in functions to generate the data that you want. Like we have a RAND credit card function to generate random credit cards that are of type Visa, right? Uh, but you need not use the function if you don't know the function. You can just, or if you're trying to, I don't know, generate first names, last names, or city names, you can say, hey, generate Indian first names or generate city names from US East, US West. That is very much possible. Just in free text, you type it out and it will create the necessary data for you. And we can introduce some negative scenarios during testing, and also the whole test data orchestration piece. You sometimes run into this. Oh, okay. You might come back and say, all right, I create test data. I mean, there are a lot of free tools out there which will generate a big CSV for me. Why do I have to use this? Fair enough. But the test data that you create has to be meaningful and has to have the referential integrity within your application. Let's assume you're filling out a registration form, right? You don't want to put, I don't know, a customer ID that is auto-generated. You probably have to put a customer ID that is probably somewhere in your backend database. And that gets created only when the user registers for the first time, let's say. So we have the ability to go fetch data from remote endpoints, put it in a variable, use that as a part of your test, right? So we have really thought through all of that and adjusted the tool accordingly. And last but not the least, we have AI-driven data profiler. And what we mean by AI-driven profiler is we have the ability to look at a code in the sense, say you deal with JMeter scripts. Today, I think we support only JMeter. So maybe let's stick with JMeter. Let's say you have a JMeter script. You can bring in your JMeter script as is, upload it to Blazemeter. Blazemeter can detect any hard-coded values and parameterize it automatically. So our data profiler scans through the file, looks at all those hard-coded, payload request or query string parameters, and it says that, okay, you're using hard-coded data. Let's parameterize and use test data. It is going to auto-suggest test data for you, and it will come up with a model like this on the right-hand side, which you can adjust later. But it is going to reduce your scripting time significantly, right? So all the stuff that I'm talking about, service virtualization will help you reduce the dependency on external services. Test data will not only solve the test data problem, but reduces the scripting time significantly, where you don't have to manually go and parameterize stuff. Now, with Perfecto and Blaze coming together, like who does what, right? I'm talking about two products. I'm saying Perforce is one company. Like, where is the synergy? Like, where to use what and all. So, really, you can think of Blazemeter as a tool that can do this whole back-end testing. Okay. And then Perfecto could be the front-end testing tool, right? So for putting load on the back end, use Blazemeter. If required, to eliminate any dependencies on APIs or external APIs, use virtual services. Use test data generation engine along the way. Run the necessary load on your platform services. And while your system is under load, we spin up a real device on a mobile, on iOS or Android, whatever device it is, the latest iOS 26 that launched. You can choose whatever you want. You can choose a desktop browser, run the application, and see how it is performing while the application or the system is under load, right? And this powerful combination of doing both by eliminating dependencies is something no other vendor can give you, right? And it also seamlessly integrates through pipelines. And this is another view of how things can happen from both the products. Like, you can either manually upload a test, or through the CI/CD pipeline, upload or run tests, where we spin up machines in the cloud on the fly, and we generate test data, deploy mock services, run the test against the platform. And Perfecto is used to test that front end, really, when it is under load. So that is one view. Now, I think we touched on all the issue areas, but one thing we did not touch on is really, okay, so we talked about eliminating dependencies, we talked about test data, we talked about multiple vendors, we talked about user experience testing, CI/CD, scripting and maintenance. What else is there, really? Okay. And how can we ease things for you? So typically, the study says that, about 56% of anyone's time really goes into writing scripts, maintaining them, executing them, and doing some root cause analysis, right? These are the four areas. And these are the four challenges when it comes to scripting maintenance. And what we believe is, on the Perforce side, we are coming with something called as Perforce Intelligence or Perforce AI. We can give you significant time efficiency gains by replacing all of that and let our AI do things. Do we have all of it now? No. We have some of it, and some of it is on the roadmap. But this is our vision, which I think will really help you understand where our products are going and what solutions you can have. So the way we think things will happen is, so we talked about SV, test data, performance testing, functional testing, all of it well and good. So we are trying to build an agentic engine, which is going to be a game changer, where we decouple all these things, and it is cross-platform and will increase the level of automation in such a way that the agent is going to take care of doing all these things for you, right? And the vision really is, and we are starting with this, okay? What we believe in is, when it comes to creating, executing tests like this, creating a test, executing a test, analyzing it, and maintaining it, right? We believe all of this can be done through our AI engine. And the way we are envisioning this is AI through natural language input can create a test for you. It can validate things for you, and it can navigate through your steps that you write in plain English language and show you exactly what is happening on the screen, right? This is our vision. Um, but I want to pause here for a second, and maybe I want to show you how some of these things work, okay, in action. So let's actually go to the tool itself. So this is our Blazemeter platform. You have seen this several times in the past. Like I did a few webinars where I showed you how to create tests and maybe a little bit of test data also. But I want to focus on that one concept of service virtualization today to show you how it works in Blazemeter, right? So imagine I have an application. So I have a simple app that I created in Python. It is hosted on my own local machine. All it does is it tries to look up zip codes. Okay. Now I try to put in something, it won't work because the backend is not available. It just throws some error, right? And I don't know what it is. There's a dependency because it is going to an external endpoint. How do I fix this? So what I did really here is I created an ATM lookup service. So if you go on Blazemeter, we have a tab here called Service Virtualization. I created an ATM lookup service, and I added a bunch of transactions to it, a simple get call and a post call. Let's see what this get call is doing. Okay. So the get call really is, um, it's just looking for, uh, if the request matches this, let's say I pass the zip code as 60115. So this is my request matching logic. If it matches, it is going to send me a response, a JSON response like this with the address, like the state, country, the full address of that zip code. It is a very simple example. So I created this, it is up and running. So it comes up with this dummy URL. So I can actually go in here, and if I put zip code equals 60115, it's going to return me this JSON. Very easy. It's the same thing I'm using here. Now, if I put 12345, it doesn't understand. I use 60115. I do a lookup. It returns that message and prints it neatly within my app, right? So I eliminated the dependency. Even if the actual service that is giving me this data, which could be a Google Map API or whatever, is down, or you don't have access to it, you can create a virtual service like this within our SV, tag it to your application, and run a test. Okay, well and good. But this is always going to work only if it is 60115. But how do I make it more dynamic where it returns different stuff? Make it realistic, right? So here's where test data comes into play. So the way Blaze is designed is, this is where you define virtual services, but we have something called as an asset catalog. So think of asset catalog as your library of transactions. Okay. So this specific virtual service has two transactions. Okay. A get call with a hard coded value and a post call. But I want to see if I can create a transaction that is more dynamic. In fact, I created one already here. Maybe I can show it to you here. So what I did here is I made it more dynamic by using parameters, like, or variables. Okay. Instead of hard coding 60115 as the actual value, I put in a variable here, US zip, and my response will be really completely dynamic here. So if I make this big, so my response will look something like this. Okay, just to make things big for you all to see. So instead of returning a hard-coded value, I'm returning US address, US city, US state, getting all this data from, right? So if I go to data settings, so what the first thing what I want to do is I want to remove this transaction, which is the hard-coded values. And then I want to, oops. Let's give it a second. And let's add the dynamic thing into the mix. So now this is out there. What I can do here is I can update my service with this guy. But what data do I use is the question, right? So here is where our test data engine comes into play. So test data is not just used with a performance test, but test data can be used with service virtualization, where you can make things more dynamic, right? So if I go in here to data settings, it's now going to generate random data for me for my variables. And let's see what the data looks like. It's going to generate 10 rows of data. And well, let's take a look at that. For whatever reason, this is slow today. Okay, it updated the service, so this might no longer work. Yeah, it says no match found. So we'll have to use the service, the data from the service. All right, I'm probably going to refresh this. And while this comes up, let's switch gears and let's probably look at the AI piece real quick. And we'll come back to service virtualization in a second there. Um, all right. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the Perfecto interface, but so when you actually go to Perfecto, you will be presented with a bunch of options to do manual testing and all. So what I'm about to show you is the future vision, the AI piece that I talked about, where you can go and build a mobile test. So you can open a device of your choice. So these are all the devices that are available for me. Let's say I pick an Apple iPhone, select that. It's opening a real device from a Perfecto lab. And uh, what I want to do here is I want to show you or give you a sneak peek into the AI thing that we're doing. So I'm going to go to, say, an app like Stocks. And what I can do is we can do a little bit of AI validation. Okay. So let's see. Let's create a new test. So let's add some checkpoints, right? So I think I have this. Okay. a new test now. So open a device. It's not, it's probably stuck for some reason. Okay, why is it not working? Okay, so let's open a test. Just a test. All right. Okay, so looks like this is disabled for some reason, but let's actually go back to what I wanted to show from my deck. So ideally, what I wanted to show here was we have built something called as AI driven validation, which is live today. And what it can do is it can look at an app and tell me whether things are going up or down, whether things are passed. It is all AI doing stuff. There is no code behind the scenes. It is not an Appium script or a Selenium script. It is pure image driven analysis. So what it really does is it takes a screenshot of the window, and it tells me whether something is trending down or up. Like certain use cases or test cases were not even possible to test back in the day. Those are now possible. Like you can look at this and say, hey, is the humidity between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m., is it going down or up, right? Is it going down? If it is going down, it says yes, it's going down. It's a pass. It's going up. It's a fail, right? Uh, Another example is, let's say you have something like this, a boarding pass on your phone. Like you just go on Indigo, you're traveling from location A to location B. You want to make sure you're testing whether the gate number is there, whether the airport code matches the actual destination, or yeah, you can just type in free text and say, is the notification toggle on or off? It'll say it is off, it's a pass. Or you can say, hey, which airport will my flight arrive? AI will do that for you. So this is actually the first step towards making it that whole agent where we take a screenshot, AI will analyze the screenshot and tell you whether it is a pass or a fail. It is just in a validation phase right now. On 15th of July, we're going to release AI-based navigation where you can give not just a validation step, but a sequence of steps for it to do this whole testing for you. You can say, hey, open a mobile app, click on Apple stock application, uh, do this, do that, check it if it is going up or down, make sure the graph charts are matching, the trend charts are matching the color and all. Like if it is going down, it has to be red. If it is going up, it has to be green. You tell it everything in clear text in natural language input, it is going to do it for you, right? And this will be released in Perfecto in about a month on 15th of July. And not stopping there, what the vision really is, we can do AI powered root cause analysis. We do a little bit of it today. But the idea really is, oh, what if your app changes? The whole maintenance story, the other challenge I talked about. How do we want to do this? We think based on usage, based on application logs, based on APM data, we can feed that into AI again. Let AI create the necessary tests for us rather than we telling it. So one, using natural language input, we can create tests. Two, we can also have AI create its own test, right? Based on some data that is given to it, and finally execute those tests. So this way, this whole regression testing concept will be gone. Gone in the sense, I mean, it won't be completely gone. It will still be there, but you don't have to worry about regression testing. It can take care of it, right? So the future, what we are really seeing is we can generate user stories, production usage. Based on that, we can create the test cases. We can generate the necessary test for you. We can analyze the results and we can give you recommendations. So that is what we see as the future now. All right, I think that's about it. I know we had a little bit of a glitch. Could not show you what I wanted to show you, but maybe this is back up now. And yeah, if I can show you, that would have been nice. But anyway, I want to pause here. Oh, okay, there you go. I got the data for my virtual surveys. So if I really use something like this, 20626, instead of this, it should give me proper response. Okay, 189 York Street. Is that what it is? Yes, 189 York Street. Similarly, if I use the data 35966, 35966, this should generate a different address for me. Flat Rock 516. Yeah, so that's the address. So I think you get the concept. So and we have customers actually using virtual services for completely replacing dependency on a payment gateway. You don't have to go to Stripe or PayPal because they will not let you test. You can create the payment gateway services as dummy services here, use test data, run it with your tests. You can completely eliminate Salesforce, all the APIs that Salesforce talks to. I have seen people build a big Salesforce instance with virtual services. In fact, we do have templates available for Salesforce. You don't have to manually create all those. Using a template, you can get started and it has all the services. With that, I want to pause for any questions. And maybe Amit, if you want to.
Yes. So, as of now, we don't have any questions. So, I'll ask once again if you have any questions. I can see two people raising your hands. So, if you can ask, if you can write your questions in the chat box so that we can uh, answer them as soon as possible. So, we have Andrew Lee, Prashant Bagmare, and Madana Kalimuthu. So we have three people raising their hands. So you guys want to speak, Mr. Prashant and Muthu? Okay. Nevertheless, I actually had one question from what I had from my earlier clients. Like, how do you ensure that your environments are compliant and don't expose sensitive production like data, and specifically when you use AI?
Yeah, so see, one is when you use production data, right? So, firstly, we do not recommend using production data when you're doing testing in a non-production environment. Firstly, you're not supposed to be testing in production.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be using, if anyone is talking about PII concerns and all, we tell them that we are not supposed to be testing in production. You have to be testing in a non-production environment. And we can mimic your production environment by generating data the way you want. And if there is any referential integrity, we can use. But if there is a need for you to use something like that, this is where our Delphix product comes into play, where we have the ability to create a virtual database out of production. We can anonymize or mask certain data. Let's say there's a list of social security numbers in a database. We can, when you virtualize it, we can use a virtual database. You can mask the data and you can augment that data with some Blazemeter data and use that instance for testing. In fact, we also have an integration between Blazemeter and Delphix products that will allow you to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have one question from Mr. Prashant. What if we keep transaction in both virtual services like internal and external in service virtualization? Can we run both transactions at a time?
Yeah. So great question. So if I understand it right, what you're saying is what happens when there are internal endpoints and external endpoints, right? So when we spin up a virtual service in Blazemeter, we're actually spinning it up in a public location, typically by default US East Virginia. Uh, so if for whatever reason, I think I didn't go through some of the other features that it can do, right? If you wanted to go to a live endpoint, or let's say, if you wanted to go through a proxy, if you wanted to go to a backend live environment, we can do that. But if you want this to be deployed inside your network, make it internal only. Yeah, we have a concept called private locations where you can set up a Blazemeter agent internally within the network and deploy the virtual service inside the network, so that for an application which is internal only, that does not have access to the outside environment, cannot go and hit it.
Okay. I hope, Prashant, that gives the answers to your question. Uh, and we have enabled the chat box. So if anyone else wants to question, okay. So we have one question: how do you handle authentication or auth taken basic in Blazemeter?
So, see, Blazemeter is an orchestration tool, right? It cannot, what you call, so when you create a test here, we give you some tools to get you started. We have a Chrome extension which is available for free that will record the flow. But when you replay that, you cannot use the same token every single time, right? That is number one. So what you will need to do there is you will need to make sure the test is properly correlated. There's a concept called correlation when writing a script, where you chain the requests appropriately. Let's assume in case of OAuth, it is a two-way or a three-way handshake where you hit one endpoint, you get what is called as a session token. You send the session token and a code to another endpoint, you get an access token. And there's a refresh token flow also. Uh, so when you pass the credentials to endpoint A, you get something back, put that in a variable, use that variable to pass to the second endpoint, and then come back. Now, if you want to do such a thing in Blazemeter directly, we give you the ability to create that just like how you do it in Postman. But if you are using tools like JMeter and all, you can do that scripting inside JMeter itself. But think of Blaze as more of an orchestration engine. Like if you go in here and you say login flow, and the first thing you're trying to do is you go to a dot, oops, go to a https a.b.com/API slash, I don't know, say access token. You are passing your username and password either as query parameters, if it is a GET call, or if it is a POST request, you pass it in the body. And this endpoint, let's say, gives you an access token. You can extract from the JSON, put it in a variable, and you can pass it to the next request. So when you pass it to the next request, that variable will be available to you as curly braces, as you can reference a variable like this. I think I need to fill this out first. Slash endpoint two, right? So here what I can do is I can reference some variable if I want to pass, or yeah. So you get the concept. So I can define a variable, extract something from the first request, put it in there, and then use that in subsequent calls.
Uh, Great. So I think that gives the answers. So now another question we have from Mr. Sushant is, how do you ensure cross-browser and cross-device compatibility using these tools?
Yeah, so the end user experience part, when you enable this, typically uh, when you run a performance test, you can also run a functional test on a browser, right? Like I mentioned, you have the ability to choose other browsers here. Okay. So let's say you want to hit a.b.com again. And you can choose on which browser you want to run this, whether it is, Safari or Mozilla, Chrome. You have those three options, and you have also the option to choose a location where you want to run it from. Because sometimes we get requests where they say, hey, I have a Black Friday sale going on at midnight, and midnight there is a launch. Yes, people have done testing there near the data center, but someone trying to access the same website from California who's 3 hours behind may not be able to see the same experience. So you can choose a load engine from California region and test that.
So we have the
Like,
continuation to the previous question, I think. Is it possible
yeah,
to run distributed performance test using Blazemeter?
yeah. So like Playwright, can it run on multiple browsers at same time? So yes, it can. So typically what we do is, again, there's two ways to run performance testing and that browser testing, right? So say I hear this question all the time. People will come to me and say, hey, I want to run a performance test, but I want to open 100 browsers. Okay. Is opening 100 browsers your end goal, or is testing the user experience when you have 100 users on the back end the goal? What we normally try to recommend is, let's assume your goal is to test an application for 10,000 virtual users. So you run a 10,000 virtual user test, and we generate the load. To generate a 10,000 user test, or let's say 1,000 users to make things easy, right? I want to run a 1,000 user test. In order to run a 1,000 user test, I need 4 machines, assuming each machine can generate 275 users, right? Or 250 users. Very easy. So with 4 load engines, I can generate a 1,000 user test. But this test is JMeter based, no browser involved. It is a protocol level test. While I have this test running, I can run that browser test on Firefox or Safari here, but that will run for one user. Okay. That is still our recommended way of doing things. That way, how many machines are we spinning up? We're spinning up 4 machines to run the load test, one machine to run the actual functional test. Now, you might ask, or you might say, oh, that is not realistic. Well, to me, our goal is to not test the end browser. Our goal is to test the end browser, but when the backend is under load, right? You're putting the backend load using a JMeter script, 1,000 users. So your backend app server and all are at 80% CPU and memory. When your backend application is at 80% CPU memory, now you open a browser and see whether things are loading properly or not. This is our recommended way of doing things for anyone, because and it is the most optimal way of doing things. Now I know Playwright or some other competitors will come and say, okay, no, we can do this. No, I want to really open 100 browsers. Okay, can the tool technically do it? Absolutely. I mean, but it is going to be an expensive test. And how we do that is, we have a thing called, you can upload either a Selenium script directly here instead of JMeter, and you can choose 1,000, and we can spin up 1,000 actual real browsers for you. Or you can go to define test scenario, you can start your recording, you can do a proper recording of your entire flow. We can run a test, a proper browser test, but that is going to be, it is licensed differently, and it will, because when you open an actual browser, it will consume more resources on a load engine, more CPU memory. In this case, 4 engines were sufficient to generate 1,000 user load. In a Selenium test, running 1,000 browsers will require probably, I don't know, even if I do 5 browsers, I will need 200 engines to run the same test. Yes. The technical answer, yes, we can do it, but is it the most economical? No.
Great. Sisha, so we are already above time, so we'll take these two questions that I can see, and after that we'll move to the polls quiz session. One question is, is it possible to run distributed performance test using Blazemeter?
Yes, like I showed you here. So this is one example where you can distribute the load across regions, right? I mean, you can say, I want 50% traffic to come from Mumbai, 30% from US East Virginia, and then rest 20% from somewhere else. And we'll spin up load engines accordingly. So in short, it is possible. You don't have to worry about setting up the infrastructure. And I also see another question,
Yes. How we
Sayali,
can test?
test UI while load testing is in progress. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to show. Um, the end user experience feature, where this is a test, a load test which we ran. But while the load test was in progress, we also ran a browser test which shows the end user experience. So this, okay, this is probably a bad example. I will show you maybe this report. This was 1,000 user test. Um, these are all different metrics. Okay. But if you go to the end user experience tab, this will show you how the application behaved when there was a load of 1,000 on the back end. So I can maybe pick one, and we capture a full video recording of the iteration. So this is what I was saying, right? This is the economical way of doing things, where it runs for one user, but it runs in a loop throughout the duration of the actual test. So here you can see that it went to home page, clicked on this, it did this, did that, and finally booked a flight. But if you want to see the actual user experience, what happened, this is how it opened the browser. It clicked on different things, it entered the information and booked a flight for me.
Great. So thank you very much, Sisha. I think each and every question is answered, and the rest of the questions you can also ask in the chat box. We will answer them after this session. Also, we will keep those things in the chat box. Okay. Thank you very much, Sisha, for your insightful and practical session. To make this more engaging, we have prepared a quiz or test for, you can say, for your knowledge, and help you reflect like on the key takeaways. So we have this quiz, and can we have the quiz link in the chat box? Okay, so just a moment. Great. So we have the link in the chat box. So can you please? Great. So please click on the link and you can start the quiz, and also we'll be giving you exciting hampers to the winners of this quiz. So, and please join by your own name. Change your name
Lovely
accordingly.
King. SK. Lady Steen. Susan. Dinesh. Ak. SSH. Foolish Slow. Quiz.com. Play and create.
1. What are some of the most common test environment issues that teams report? SDLC, environment configuration drift and lack of availability. How do test environment constraints impact delivery timelines or quality?
Dana
They can
Lakshmi
delay
joined.
test execution, reduce coverage, lead to undetected bugs. Can Blazemeter simulate complex environments with integrated services like APIs and data? Yes, it can simulate end-to-end test scenarios, including APIs, database.
Final question. Double points.
How does adopting Perforce's testing solutions contribute to reducing test cycle times? By enabling parallel test execution, integrating automation into C/CD.
Third place. Lovely King. Second place. Ah. And the winner is SSH.
Great. So I think that was a lovely quiz. So I just want to know who was SSH so that we can also share the goodies and connect to you. Great. Thank you very much, Sesha. Please write your name SSH so that we can also get the results and we can get you the goodies. And thank you very much for this awesome session. We will keep on hosting such sessions with Perforce and Blazemeter definitely in future also. And anyone who wants to have a one-on-one session or want to have a demo of this awesome tool, that is Blazemeter or Perfecto or a combined tool, then definitely we would love to have that. We have the link. We'll put the link in the chat box so that you can register for the one-on-one session where you can ask as many questions as you want to, personalized as per your environment. We can get the dedicated demo session for you as per your company's policies and environment. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sesha.